solicitor in competition law and digital markets at Charles Lyndon. I know no one likes a lawyer, but I can at least enjoy the presentation. I need you. I've only got 15 minutes to chat with you tonight, but I'm going to give you a high-level overview of a number of different topics, starting with the emerging regulatory landscape for AI in Europe and the UK. Then going into things that matter to you, either as developers of AI tools or users of AI tools. So things like hallucinations and misrepresentations, harm that can be caused by AI, and you care if you're a developer or if you're a business employing AI models. Privacy and data leakage and issues of consent and data minimization, automated decisions and human rights, so the right to challenge those decisions, explainability and accountability of AI models, intellectual property risk, and then lastly, some guidelines for AI developers and AI users. Starting with the emerging regulatory landscape. Consumer-facing AI is relatively new. A lot of us didn't even know what AI was 5 or 10 years ago. And it's even harder for regulators and lawmakers to catch up. At the European Union level, there's now the EU AI Act, which was introduced last year, and it's being phased in between 2025 and 2027. This matters to you, and you should be concerned with it if you develop products or you deploy products in the European Union. So if your market is not just limited to the UK. The UK, on the other hand, perhaps unsurprisingly, doesn't have an equivalent piece of legislation because it takes a more pro-innovation approach whereby the government lets things run a little bit looser in the hopes that will spur more innovation. And the government's view in the UK is that the legislation we have is sufficient to deal with it and our regulators are well equipped to deal with that. That would be a much longer conversation. I'll leave that. And internationally, we've got bodies like the United Nations and the OECD, which are developing guidelines on responsible use of AI and how do you deal with matters that cross borders. So where countries have different pieces of legislation or none, how do you deal with those things? Now moving into things that you should be concerned about if you're using or developing AI tools. As all of you will know, and as for those of you who are tech people, you'll know it much better than me, AI, large language models use statistics for probabilistic design. This means that they're looking at what is the most likely next word, which can sound very convincing and it can sound like it's the truth, but it might just be made up. And if you don't double check those things and you just rely on it, you might be passing on a hallucination as something that is real, and you will run into problems for that. And I will make money if you do that. So if you're developing an AI tool, you have an obligation to test, to see what kind of hallucinations might happen. And I know you can't prevent all of them, but try to mitigate and then have warnings in place for your users that, for example, if someone is using an AI tool to seek medical advice, well, a warning in place so they can make mistakes and it's not a substitute for a real physical doctor. Case in point, Air Canada, a wonderful airline, has a chatbot on its website. And there was someone who logged in, was using the chatbot. Someone had passed away in his family, and he says, okay, if I buy a ticket, should I get a bereavement discount? And the chatbot says, yes, go ahead, buy the ticket, and then you can claim a discount within 90 days. So he bought the ticket, and then the airline goes ahead and says, no, there's no bereavement discount. We're not going to give you the difference. Why they did that is a big question, because then this man sued Air Canada. The tribunal says, well, no, the chatbot is on your website. You're responsible for what it does. Yeah. And Air Canada says, well, if he had gone on the policy section of the website, he would have seen that we don't have a bereavement rate. And the AI tool is separate to Air Canada. It's its own thing. The tribunal says, no, you are using an AI tool. You're responsible for the outcome. So if it hallucinates and makes something up, you as a business will pay the bill for that. Another, and perhaps worst example, is when AI takes things further and it actually encourages users to do something that is harmful to themselves or to someone else. And there is an ongoing case in the US where a teenager recently was talking to ChatGPT, telling ChatGPT that he was feeling suicidal. ChatGPT encouraged him to kill himself, told him how to do it, and told him not to tell his family that he was going to do it. So when you are developing AI tools, or if you as a business have made available an AI tool,
kill himself.
Yes. You have a duty of care for your users. So if you're developing a product that might encourage vulnerable people to commit suicide or to harm themselves, you may very well be held responsible for that. On a related note, there is also the issue of privacy and data breaches. So if you're developing an AI tool, you know you're going to be collecting user data. What do you do with that data? And how is your model going to use it? So you need to be careful that you don't have a model that is taking an identifiable individual's data and accidentally giving it to someone else, to a different user. You also need to ensure that the data you're collecting, you're actually using it for what you collected it for, and you're not sharing it more widely without a proper legal basis. So for example, if you've got an AI tool and you say, hey, you want some advice on how to get a good night's sleep, use my tool. You cannot take that data that you've collected for the purposes that people are sharing so that they're getting some sort of sleep advice and then sell it to a third party for ads, because you don't have a proper legal basis to do that. If you do these things, there will be people like me who will sue you. And then there will also be regulators who might fine you. And people lose trust in your product if they're realizing you're breaching common or basic decency. So ideas here is to adopt a differential privacy setting, which means that your model is not relying on any one identifiable individual's data. So you're adding noise to your model so that you're not accidentally disclosing personal data. But also that you've got strong security controls in place and that you're never using data that you've collected for one purpose and something else entirely, even if it later might be profitable for you to do so. Don't do it. This takes us to the question of consent. So consent under the GDPR, which is the main regulation dealing with privacy in the UK and in Europe, needs to be adequate, relevant, needs to be really given, specific, informed, and unambiguous. What does that mean? If I am consenting to your privacy policy, I need to understand, what are you actually going to do with my data? This means you're not giving me a 15-page document where you've hidden some terms in there saying that actually you're going to sell my data to 1,500 other parties, and you've not made that clear to me. That is not clear, informed consent. You also cannot make this sort of consent to data sharing a condition of using your product if it's actually not needed. There is also the fact that you need to minimize the amount of data that you collect. So again, if I am building an app to sell water bottles, the data that I'm collecting needs to be related to that. I can't now think, oh, maybe it would be cool to collect people's data on their preferences about purses, and maybe I'll develop that app later. No, that is not minimizing the data you're collecting because it's not related to the purpose. Now, the question of automated decisions, which are impacting all of us now. If you apply for a credit card, if you're on an NHS waiting list and they're trying to figure out what priority to give you for surgery, if you're applying for a mortgage, a lot of these decisions are now made by AIs. Under the GDPR, you have a right if you're affected, but it also means that your clients as a business have a right, if they're affected by an automated decision, to challenge that decision and to have a human being review it. This means that you as a developer need to be able to explain why the AI has done what it has done. So think of these concepts of transparency, interpretability, and explainability as a cooking show. So what does transparency mean? If we're thinking about a cooking show, transparency means the cameras are on and I can see what people are cooking. So here you can see what is happening with the model. Can you interpret it? So again, if I'm looking at the chef cooking something, do I know why they've added pepper to the food? Do I know why the model is doing what it's doing? And now lastly, explainability. Is at the end of the cooking show when the chef comes with their dish and they say, oh, this is what I've made, this is what it is, and this is why I've done it. So when the model has made a decision, Can you, as a developer or as the business using a third-party model, explain why it has done what it has done? These are not optionals, nice to have. These are mandatory things when you using these models make audio. You also, as developers and users, need to account for biases. There's been a recent study where the researchers posed as women or men and asked ChatGPT, I'm applying for this medical position in Denver. What salary should I ask for? When you said you were a man, the salary was 400,000 USD a year. When you said you were a woman, the salary was 280,000. And the bias went further. If you said you were an Asian male, your salary went way up. If you said you were a Hispanic female, your salary went way down for the same position. So why is there this bias? Again, because these models are taking real life data, and we know there's a lot of prejudice in the real world. So you have a responsibility when you're designing these tools or implementing them to ensure that the prejudices that already exist in the non-digital world don't get further enforced by these tools. And imagine, again, if you're female and you're using this and you didn't even know it's telling you to ask for a lower salary because it's off your mind. You also need to maintain documentation. You need to run audits of what you're doing. So for example, if we think about the ChatGPT example, now is the time the lawyers are going to be asking ChatGPT, well, what kind of safeguards did you have in place? Did you test to see that what would happen if someone tried to ask for advice on how to harm themselves, harm someone else? That's when you need to show that you've tried to mitigate and what have you done to do it. You may be held liable if you're negligent, as ChatGPT was, or if you misrepresent something like Air Canada did, or if you breach some sort of statutory duty. So it's important, again, for you to have frameworks in place of risk mitigation and the steps you will take if something goes wrong. Now, a topic that is also very relevant is intellectual property risk. If you are building a model, what kind of data are you using to train this model? Are you using data that's copyrighted? Because if so, you might be infringing on copyright rights and you might get sued for that. And also the output of your model might be actually reproducing something that is copyrighted, in which case you're also liable for that infringement. So my advice would be, if that might be a concern for what you do, monitor what's happening in the case law and then adapt your policies based on how these cases are being decided. Now, lastly, some guidelines if you're developing AI tools is implement rigorous testing. Do red teaming, where you're kind of trying to hack your own system and see what happens, see what can go wrong. Don't just think, how would I use it? But how would someone who either has ill intent or someone in a vulnerable situation, how might they use my system and how might it impact them? Adopt privacy by design. So don't collect more data than you need. Have differential privacy in place and also have clear, honest, upfront policies about what you're doing with people's data. Obtain valid consent. And design for explainability. Remember that if you're impacting people's lives, they have a right to challenge that, and you will need to be able to explain why the model is doing what it's doing. It's no response to say, I don't know, it's a black box. And if you're an AI user, don't input confidential or sensitive information. So let's say you're a doctor and you have patients coming to you. You can't just take their data and put it into a commercial platform like ChatGPT or Gemini without consent, because that data can then get used to train a model. And it's not your data, it's someone else's sensitive data. You need to verify the output. So if you're a lawyer like me, you can't just take a case that ChatGPT gives you and think, oh, this happened, because it might not have happened. And then you could be sanctioned by a regulator. And if you're using AI to impact people's rights, know that they can challenge that, and you need to have a process in place to allow people to challenge it in a fair way, and you need to have someone in your organization who is responsible for AI oversight. And that is it. I hope I stuck to my 15 minutes.
You were talking about the data users and stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Meta farming our data? So how does that fit within what you're saying?
there are lawsuits against Meta for that. Because Meta has both at the EU level and the UK, they've taken on and off Facebook data without consent and sold it to third parties. And there was a recent decision by a German regulator that went all the way to the European Court of Justice that said Facebook can't do this because what Meta is doing, again, in the UK, there hasn't been a similar decision, but at the European level, they can't keep doing it because they illegally made consent requisite. So to access Facebook, all of a sudden you've gone from just saying you can collect my on Facebook data to now you have access to my off Facebook data.
I just wanted to add one thing to. So first of all, thank you very much for the presentation.
It was excellent.
Second of all, I just wanted to add a little bit of my experience on one point. When built AI chatbots, I work in Star and I'm building one. Yes, I have a lot of chats to have with you. It's not an easy task. The thing is mostly I would add monitor your chatbot. So keep the human into the loop of the workflow when you built it. Because I didn't solve the quiz. I don't feel comfortable on a legal perspective. But we're doing that and it's very interesting for sure. And it will hopefully help the employee experience, anything around HR. I think the monitor piece, there is dashboard that you can set up. There you can use another LLM to test your chatbot. You can set up the hallucination or whatever. We can talk for hours. I still think we're not there yet, but just wanted to highlight that if other people are working in that space.
It's your chatbot, but think if you're using AI in hiring, might you end up with a situation where you're just reaffirming biases where you're giving preference to male candidates or to candidates that sound like they've come from a specific place based on their name.
So the big social media platforms, they are like the jailer and the prisoner, aren't they? How are governments keeping ahead of them? Because they hold so much power, so much financial influence. You look at what's happening in the States and in the government and they're buying seats. So can you talk to that a bit?
I think that's a huge problem because now there's a lot of social media platforms that are worth more than the GDP of whole countries. And you can see some of the regulators seem to have buddies with these companies, like a past leader in the UK, a past leader of the Information Commissioner's Office took a fully paid trip to Facebook headquarters in California. And if we look at the Irish Data Protection Agency, when I don't know how many of you know this already, but Meta has plans, and they've actually already started doing it, to take all the posts you've made, which you made for the purposes of sharing it with your friends, and they've inputted that into their AI model without consent. And at the European level, this was challenged. But the problem is because Meta is in Ireland, the regulator who's responsible for it is the Irish CPA. And all they did a year ago was to put a freeze on it for a year. And then in May of this year, Meta went ahead and it ingested everyone's data. So if you were on Facebook or Instagram, even your posts from 15 years ago, and they said, oops, we can't undo it. It's in our model. So you can't. You were not asked about it, so you didn't exercise your right of consent, but also under the GDPR, you have a right to post something or to provide information and say, actually, I want you to delete it. And Meta has said, we can't remove it from our model. So you're not exercising any of your rights, and the UK ICO has not done anything about it. And
what are they going to do about it? Reassure me. Reassure me.
No. Unfortunately, I don't think I can reassure you, but then it falls on lawyers to challenge these things and to say they're illegal. But the UK is not a place that's really seeking to enforce privacy rights.
Well, nor is the US. I mean, they're just building the ballroom, aren't they? All those people.
I'm going to have to interrupt, and I'm so sorry. Any questions you have for Larissa, please follow her. We've sadly taken the slides off because she's too phenomenal and not let her leave because I want to talk for hours. So I'm going to direct more questions to after, but I just want to say a massive thank you. Huge thank you, and I have a small gift for you to email you later. Our next speaker, I'm going to allow someone to introduce herself, but she needs some instructions, but we're going to do a phenomenal presentation on how to build a successful AI product on Lovable. But please do introduce yourself properly.
Thanks, Larissa, for making everyone just not want to do anything with AI. It's a very hard act to follow, but I will give it a go. Audre Lorde, who described herself as Black, lesbian, mother, warrior, poet. She spent her life fighting the voices of those who have been told they didn't belong. She said, "When we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it's better to speak." Today is about speaking, about building, about putting your ideas out into the world, even when you're not sure if they'll work, even when you've never done it before. So with vibe coding, you can actually do it. You don't really need to be technical. So I thought I'll have a bit of fun with this. I opened a temporary chat because if you don't open a temporary chat, ChatGPT knows a lot about me. I opened a temporary chat and I said, "Who's Sumathi Menon?" And it gave a bunch of stuff, but the thing that you need to see is the one there. She's a UK regional lead for Women Defining AI, advocating for inclusion and emphasizing the shift from being users of AI to builders of AI. That's what today is really about.
Was that true?
Quite impressive. So it's not just about consuming AI, but creating with it. So let me give you some context to how I came here for this talk today. 2 months ago, we ran a Build Together hackathon in collaboration with UKAI, Women Defining AI and UKAI, got together and we ran a hackathon for 8 weeks with 16 participants, which is what this is actually. And they built the 4 teams built 4 prototypes. So I'm going to take you on a little journey and I'm going to show you a video. Hopefully everything will be sound. To the time.
Right.
Amazing. I'm so proud of the teams that created these prototypes. We are going to have an amazing showcase event in January. We are still deciding on the venue with UKI, where these 4 teams, and 6 of them have never worked on AI before. Now they can do things like GitHub, they can do API connections, they can do many things.
So they're not coders of background.
Not coders, not all of them.
Yeah.
There are the teams were mixed and matched. And the transformation, really, this is the story of transformation. And some of the ladies are here, so say hello to them during networking and their experiences as well. And this story is about the journey of, them saying, yes, I want to give it a go, to just like staying with it, the community support and the education and the willingness to keep going. Basically, that's what it was. So the question is, it's not, can I do this? It's like, what is stopping you? So that brings us to vibe coding. We used Lovable in this hackathon. So Lovable was our in-kind partner. So we got a few credits. We got 100 credits to use. So we decided to use Lovable. And what is Lovable? It's a type of vibe coding. Did you know that vibe coding is 2025 Collins Word of the Year? And if you haven't heard about it, then you're missing out on a huge trend. And this term was coined by Andrej Karpathy. He's one of the founders of OpenAI. He led Tesla AI, and now he's an educator. He's a huge AI proponent. And he basically coined the term vibe coding. He said, you could actually build product by giving into the vibes. You forget that the code even exists. And he says, I just see stuff, say stuff, run stuff, copy paste stuff. And it mostly works. So the shift is from, typing code. I don't know how many coders are here, but I used to be a coder as well. So typing your syntax and compiling and, all that. You don't have to do any of that now. You just type on your phones.
No way.
We'll see now. How Lovable works, which we're going to do a demo of very quickly, is you describe in plain English. English is your superpower. You say in plain English, you say it clearly what you want. AI generates your product. you iterate, you refine, again, in plain English, and you can actually do one click, ship the product, put it on the website and share, and we will see it today. Before we go on to that, there are some things you need to remember. Fuzzy prompts equal fuzzy product. Okay, vague prompts, vague product. So be specific. Don't say, build me a meal planning app. Say, a bit more detail on what you want, what you don't want, what kind of stuff.
Descriptive.
Wireframe. These are wireframes. They are like sketches that it's a database. It's a software development lifecycle wording, the wireframe and PRD. PRD stands for Product Requirements Document. So that's really where you put all the information that you want about the product that you want to build. What is the user? What does the user journey look like? What sort of, like, how many fields do you want? What information? Going back to what Larissa said, do not fill a lot of information. If you don't need it, don't take it. Just keep that in mind, and governance you can keep in mind every time. Some pro tips. Again, specificity. Use discuss plan mode. All these vibe coding tools have a discuss or a plan mode. If you don't use that, the moment you say something, you'll just run and do it. You don't want that, because sometimes you're just thinking, like, should I do that? Should I not do that? Don't be afraid to look under the hood, because you're not going to make any mistakes by just seeing what is there. See what code it has created. Use AI as a teacher, not just coder. So even when you're using vibe coding, you can ask things like, what will happen if I do this? Do I really need the database? Do I need to do authentication? You can ask it all those questions. It can be your big teacher. The more you understand, the better product you build. Now, this is where we come to what actually Larissa said. So what we are going to do right now is literally YOLO. But the vibe coding is amazing if you can use your data for vibe coding, right? It's very powerful. If you can use your own Google Sheets, your own data, then obviously a lot of other things come into play, like your APIs, your webhooks, your authentication. And if you move one step further, if you're developing a product, not just for yourself, but for others, then everything becomes a big deal, right? You need to have a lot of scrutiny on authentication, make sure that someone else cannot log in, the security, you have enough security. The moment you introduce payments, it's completely another ballgame. Governance, again, depending on what kind of product you're building, your bias, your ethics, everything comes into play. Monitoring. So some of the things, I think this slide, Larissa did really well, so I can skip over this. So now I'm going to show you how to build it very quickly.
It's in the same. Nice. Sorry.
Provided the speakers are happy, I'm sure we could probably share a copy of key slides. Okay, brilliant.
What is .dev?
It's the
Developers.
Ah.
right.
I'm trying to be cool.
I think somebody has closed my.
Is it that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, lovable.go. Can you see?
No, this one. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I have a different. I don't use a laptop, so that it's all confusing. Okay. So this is lovable.dev. This is where you'd go. You have free tier available. You can log in, and I am already signed up here, and I have a prompt that I have already created it. And as you can see, it's a very simple prompt. It's like, build me a Christmas holiday message generator. So what we are going to do, we're building an app where I'm just going to say, you're sending 40 Christmas cards.
Exactly.
And you're like, I don't know what I'm going to write. I'm tired of writing Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. Please, can you write it? So can you give me something? So all I'm asking this to do is basically build me a Christmas message generator to generate messages when the user provides. It's going to take a little bit of time. So I'm going to say yes, so that, and then I'll explain this. So all I've done is I've put my prompt in there. It's doing things right now. Let me say, okay. So this is the prompt. Build me a Christmas, and it needs to ask me recipient name, relationship, message theme, personalizing details. Are you a coffee lover or multitasking queen who brings the best chocolates? Christmas, and also make it inclusive. So should it be a Christmas message or a happy holiday message? And I've just given a little bit of steer on, I want festive colors and themes. That's all. So what it's doing right now, it's thinking for 17 seconds and it's now building. Okay. I want to very quickly show you this. This is where, as you see, this is empty right now. And once the product is built, I'm going to go here and show you how many lines of code it has built. We'll come to that. While it's working on that, I'll show you some of the other things that you can do here. Okay. So this is where this is your way it automatically gave a name for the app. This is the number of credits that's left. You can go to your settings and you can put all your custom prompt, like you can put certain things that you wanted to remember across all the projects. You can do that. This thing here is GitHub. I don't know if you can see that like little cat-like thing. This is your GitHub integration. GitHub, for people who don't know, is like a Google Drive for coders. So instead of keeping all the code in your local drive, you can store it somewhere where it's safe, and you can do better version control. So you keep a copy there, and then every time you make a change, you put it back. So that your production, when you move your product to production, you want to make sure that whatever is live, it's secure, and when you're making changes, it's missing something.
So that's one credit.
How much? There is a free tier gives you, I don't know, about 20. It's not enough to build a full product, but it is enough to play with it for you to see whether it's something that you want to do with it. And once you've used that and built it, then you can use that. So if I build this generator and I finish my credit, that's okay. I can still use my app that I built. So you're not going to, if you pay for a month and you built your 3 products, you're not going to lose that, because you can also build the product in this and you can give it to your tech guys to make it. There you go. It's created it.
It's a good base, yeah.
So a quick question, please. Here it shows, let me fix the button component. So did it pick up on the fact that there was an issue further out? Did it pick up on the fact that it had a bug in the code and it's self-identified?
So yeah. So this basically on the left-hand side, you can see what that AI is thinking, how it went about developing this product. I'll create an elegant Christmas holiday, and it got design inspiration. Then it made 7 edits. Let me show you how much code there is for this. This was empty, right? Look at the number of code, how many. So when you have to develop a product, you need this kind. So I don't know if you know HTML and all that. So index.css, every web page has this. That's your main homepage. So from that, the SRC, anything under SRC, these are all folders. Under this, you have different stuff underneath. So this is what I mean by look under the hood, see what's happening. And if you have some familiarity and if you want to make some changes, and it's changing something that you know is not related, you can tell it like, don't change that. And this is the chat mode, which is the plan mode in some. So if you click on chat, then it won't make the change. You can just ask it.
Exclude opposite.
So let's say Sarah.
Can I ask who owns it?
I'm going to try it. We own it. Yeah.
So it's
So-
not, they can't use that somewhere else. Somebody else creating something takes that idea.
You can save it in public or private, but you own it. So, which is good and bad. So if you create something bad, it's still yours. They can't. And let's see whether this works. You own, yeah. So I'm going to say professional, and I'm going to say, and I'm going to say generate message. So let's see what it generates. Greeting Sarah. As we wrap up another year, I wanted to express my appreciation. I know how much you love. So now I'm going to say, yeah, so it is. So personal touch needs to not just. So I'm speaking in English, as you can see. Not just added to the message. Okay. Let's see what it says. I have it as a chat mode. So let me say what it is. We're doing this live, so I haven't done this before. And even if I've done this before, it will still, every time it's different.
Is the chat run by Claude and Anthropic?
Yeah, they use different LLMs. I think I'm on Opus, which is the latest. Okay, so it's come back saying, I see exactly what you mean. Currently, it's being handled very generically in line 35. So it's giving me the line from the code where this is happening. So you can make, you can obviously change that logic. But I also want to show you one more thing. I'm going to remove the chat and I'm going to show you how simple it is. So I'm going to do visual edit. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to say, make this green. Okay, this is what I mean by saying you speak in English. And it's thinking. Because I removed the chat, it is going to do it. See, now it's reading the button.tsx. So it's reading the file that controls this button, and it's changed it. Okay. And how easy is it to, so if I just publish it, I just publish, but when you're building it, this also provides security review. You should definitely review security, but I don't know how much time I have. And this link that is there, if I copy this URL, as soon as it finishes publishing, you'll be able to share it with your family, with your kids.
Are you able to put like a content management system behind it? Yep.
So here you can, you see here this plus. If you have just say something very simple, you can just add it here.
Like an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, you can add it here. But if you're building it for something much more complicated, let's say you're building your own content management system, then you can ask it to build a database.
Okay.
You can connect it to your Notion database. If you use Notion, you can connect it to that. You can connect various things. But then you're going into the realm of like API and webhooks and things like that. Definitely learnable, but you need to obviously work with it a little bit more.
And last question, does any of the LLM tools within the platform use the content that might be in that content management system, or is the content safe and won't get consumed?
Okay, I wouldn't put my private details, but if you're worried about copyright and things, it is as safe as using your normal LLM.
Okay.
So if it is something that you're putting it in ChatGPT, or if you're using any of the automation and you're doing that, then it's as good as that.
Okay.
It's not doing it's not more secure or it's not less secure. It's as good as that. So I would definitely not put some of the things that actually causes a lot of concern where, to Larissa's point, is you find these for Christmas, people doing videos with your family and friends' photographs.
Yeah.
You don't have consent for that. You cannot use other people's photographs without their knowledge, because all that is going to me. So definitely that's a big issue. But here, let me just show you how easy it is to get a website. So this is the link that I have.
How can you create a website for this?
Yeah, this is it. There you go. Published it, and this is your website.
This is connecting to an LLM, right? To like generate. Are there users on it? Are there thousands of people start to access this? At some point, will it shut down? You know what I'm saying? Because if I go on the free version of ChatGPT, eventually we'll say, okay, you've used all. Good.
Yeah.
With this, what does that same thing happen?
Yeah, it could happen again. So it goes back to my slide where it's like when you're using it from yours to if it's no longer for your purpose, if it's for others, then obviously you need to get some tech involved to make sure that everything works as they should, and all the security, data security, your logging, make sure that if so many people are logging in, if something goes wrong, you know where it went wrong. So it becomes a proper product at that time. But this is good for things like this. You're a family of 5 and you're like, I just want to create a message like this. One of the use case that we are discussing in Women Defining AI is how to build a recipe builder. So every weekend, it just sends you 5-6 recipes. You can pick what you want, and then it'll give you a consolidated grocery list across all, and it normalizes the units and things like that. So those are some of the advantages that are there. I'm gonna stop here.